to deal with the expertise on all of this, starting with the top. Alex Satarisis, the Senior Director of Global Operations for Octagon Basketball and an expert for 18 years with the basketball marketplace. That's pretty significant. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I don't know about expert, but I do my best.
Look, the bio, and it's obviously very objective, it has expert in here 13 times. Well, so you've got to be an expert.
It's clearly objective, and so I'm clearly an expert.
You're clearly an expert. So give me a elevator speech just really quickly about Octagon basketball. We'll get kind of the credentials on the table first.
Well, Octagon Basketball, I mean, gosh, my boss has been around for 30 plus years. We operate as a quote unquote boutique agency with about 25 NBA clients, but we have the resources of one of the largest agencies in the world. We recruit like-minded people. We recruit guys that are hardworking, that are involved in their community, that are really just good people, and we've had a lot of success with that.
And that's recruiting the executives. Also, what do you look for in clients? Let's put it that way to begin with.
That they're good?
Yeah.
Probably.
In what context, though? I mean, good people, good players.
Listen, it's for us. It's both. We want them to be good people and good players. We've been really lucky that we've had a lot of players that were not very heralded, from Wesley Matthews, Ryan Anderson, even Giannis to a certain degree when he came into the league. And we knew they were going to be good players, but they're better people. And we feel that if you are a good person, you work hard, you're dedicated to your craft, you're going to have a lot of success.
Spell the Greek Freak's name in 10 seconds.
GIANNISANTETOUKNMPO.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. How many people could do that, by the way?
Probably not a lot.
I'll do the Greek Freak for purposes of this interview. Is that okay?
It's good enough.
So the Greek Freak and you have reached a harmonious conversion. You got him a 4-year, $100 million contract extension with the Bucks, a landmark global shoe deal with Nike, the first ever international basketball player to receive his own Nike signature shoe, and the fourth NBA player with combined playing and shoe contracts worth at least $200 million. That is really significant. Congrats to you. I know you'd say you wouldn't do it alone, but it's a really significant breakthrough for a lot of different reasons. Talk about it.
Oh, gosh, absolutely. I mean, if you think about in terms of my career, when I started 18 years ago, a lot of people getting into the business now, they know somebody, they're someone's friend, they grew up with a basketball player. I started this business. I didn't know one person, straight out of college. And it's funny to see now. I represented Giannis in 2013, so that was 12 years into the business. So I have no problem to say that I was lucky. It was right place, right time, but we've both grown together, and it's been a fantastic ride. It's been really wonderful to see him grow up as a person, to see him grow up as a player. But just we've been to Taiwan together, we've been to China together, we've been to Africa together. It's really fun to see his growth. We always knew he was going to be a good player, but to see him grow as a man has probably been one of my biggest pride and joys of this business.
One of the smallest markets in the NBA, yet you negotiate one of the biggest deals in NBA history, certainly internationally. I'm going to say that one of the beauties of the NBA is it's a global partnership of 30 partners that transcends individual cities. And it doesn't much matter whether you're Kevin Durant when he was in Oklahoma City or the Greek Freak in Milwaukee. Agree?
I completely agree. I just spoke about this. I think the NBA and the advent of social media, the advent of how players are marketed, I don't think the market really plays a role in anymore. I don't think Giannis would be any more of a superstar if he played in New York or in LA. Could he be involved in a few... if he's here in New York, would he be involved in some private equity things? Possibly. If he was in LA, could he get more movie deals? Maybe. But we turn those down on a daily basis. And I think...
Also, it's a 2-hour plane flight.
Well, yeah. And Milwaukee's an hour 15 drive from me. Yeah. It's perfect. Yeah. I don't have to... I can go up and have lunch with him and leave.
Cares about you. We care about you, him going to LA. Right?
No.
But
absolutely. But absolutely. I mean, to me, it's really been a wonderful thing to see that he has outgrown that market. Not outgrown, that's a wrong word. He has transcended the market. And so I don't think him playing in any of the big cities on the coast would change anything. I think he is as global a superstar as Kevin Durant was in Oklahoma City, as LeBron James was when he was in Cleveland, and I even mentioned it, Kevin Garnett when he's in Minnesota. I don't think the marketplace plays that much of a role anymore.
Good examples. However, if you're going to negotiate a long-term deal, a 4-year extension in this case with Giannis, what is being in a relatively small market where, other than the Packers and the Brewers, this is the man? It may not be an obligation, but it's a feeling that Giannis is set and suited for Milwaukee and vice versa. So there's kind of an understanding that he will be ingrained in that community over long term, or you wouldn't have done an extension.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think even going into, free agency, I mean, whether he stays in Milwaukee, he goes anywhere else. I mean, the playing contract in and of itself is set, whether he was in Oklahoma City or New York. The cap is the cap, the max is the max. So he was going to get that. He'll get that wherever he goes. But to me, he's ingrained in the community. He's become a man in Milwaukee. He came in as an 18-year-old child, and he's got his family with him, and he's become really an adult. And I think, honestly, the marketplace for him, Milwaukee suited him. It's a small town. He feels comfortable. And I think at the end of the day, wherever he ends up, if he ends up in Milwaukee or elsewhere, the contract really kind of takes care of itself.
Let's talk footwear. And I'm old enough to remember when Dr. J and Converse, and even earlier than that, it's morphed quite clearly. Yeah. You've taken it to a new level with an international player receiving his own contract. I assume that was an initial hurdle, but not significantly, because I guess my question is, does the shoe fit the player, player fit the shoe? You go to Nike and you basically say, here are the attributes. Was it like a Zion-related bidding war where you have 6 companies, here's the high bidder? What was the process?
Yeah, it was I don't know what Zion went through, but it was an absolute bidding war. He was the premier shoe free agent several years ago. Everybody was saving money to be able to sign Giannis. And for him, the most important thing was the relationship. He's a very big relationship person. If you talk about dollars, everything was pretty equitable. If you talk about their plans for a signature shoe, that was a given. He was going to have a signature shoe no matter where he went. But for us, what was important was their vision, and Nike's vision for him, and how he was going to be one of 23 signature athletes in the history of Nike and the first ever international signature athlete. So for us, that made the decision pretty easy. And we knew, you said, does the shoe fit the player? Does the player fit the shoe? I think it's symbiotic. I think it's the same. I think when we go through the process of designing the shoe, it's who is he as a person? What's important to him? What are the aspects of the shoe that fit his personality? And again, the shoe has to work well for him. So I think they both go hand in hand.
And so your perspective is quite different on it. You just did the deal, and he's the only international. Having said that, if you were in the industry objectively, would you say that there are too many big-time shoe contracts? Does it dilute the value of a special shoe relationship, knowing there's so many out there in the marketplace?
But there really isn't. Okay. If you think about it, there's a lot out there, but in terms of the ones that perform well, I was discussing this with someone. The last non-Nike shoe that did really well was probably the Kobe's when he was with Adidas, or Tracy McGrady when he was with Adidas. But since then, it's a saturated marketplace, but it's really a top-heavy marketplace. So when you look at Giannis, it's Kyrie Irving, it's Kevin Durant, it's LeBron James, and Paul George. All 5 Nike guys. Those are the ones that perform the most, which is why Nike has, I don't know what it is, 96, 97% market share. So I don't think it dilutes it at all, because I think it ends up being, again, if the shoe is good and the person is someone like Giannis, or a good person and someone that appeals to all different demographics, it's going to be successful. But it's funny, there's not that many big shoe deals anymore.
Where's Zion going to fit?
I have
long
no idea.
term.
I have no idea.
Okay, good answer. That's probably because nobody really
I have
does
no
know.
idea. Listen, when Giannis came into the NBA, we had no idea where he was going to fit. Yeah. And I think Zion is a fantastic talent in his own right. I think it's a groundswell of excitement for him, but at the end of the day, he still has to perform on the court.
So this is not, by the way, just the Greek Freaks agent. You got Bam Adebayo, you've got Seth Curry, you've got Dennis Schroeder, you've got a whole bunch of other people too. So what does Octagon basketball look like in a few years? How are you going to grow the business?
Well, that's that's an interesting question, because I think part of it for us is we want to grow the business organically. We are not a company that wants to have 70 or 80 clients in the NBA. I think we have a really good ratio right now, 25 to 30 clients in the NBA that get the kind of attention that they deserve. I don't expect us being someone that in 2 to 3 years is representing 100 clients or 80 clients. I think we like the size that we're in. Obviously, we want to grow the business, but we think that with the right clients, with the right kind of people, you grow with them as opposed to continuing to add more and more talent, because then that dilutes the entire agency. It dilutes the amount of time you get to spend with them. So I think it's going to be an organic process.
So our final question about the Greek Freak or large contract deals and marketing them. The asset allocation, the asset value allocation. I assume the Bucks felt really comfortable, especially with their relationship back to Greece. The NBA is comfortable. How easy is it to do large deals now, understanding that the team needs to be appeased or involved, and so does the NBA?
It's pretty easy. I mean, it's for us. I think for any client, I've said this all the time. For a client to do a good playing contract deal, a good NBA deal, you have to have two basic parameters: timing and leverage. So if you have timing and he is one of the most sought after free agents, and you have more than one team going after your player, you will have the deal that you want. If either of those two parts don't exist, you have leverage but you don't have timing, or you have timing and you don't have leverage, it doesn't matter how much the NBA is involved. It doesn't matter how much the team needs to be appeased. It's still a free market, and supply has to meet demand. Yeah. So that's, to me, the most important thing. So anytime as an agent, we look at it and say, do I have the leverage going into this free agency for Giannis, for Bam, for Satarisis, or anybody like that, to be able to get the deal that we want?
NBA average franchise value, if you believe Forbes, is now $1.9 billion. It's up 13% year over year. I'm sure the notion of the face of a franchise and the significant superstar is a very significant piece of value, and you guys deal with that all the time. You got the salary cap negotiations as one piece of it, but how do you internally calculate the value of hypothetically a Greek Freak on the Bucks or any of the players you represent on any team?
I mean, that's a really good question, and I think that's proprietary information that Milwaukee will never give me, because I'll use that against them for negotiations. But
with them to reach
with them, absolutely, with them. But it's interesting, because I had a conversation with someone the other day and it was an owner who said he knows it would never happen, but for the upper echelon of people who have helped raise a value, there should be some equity base. Mm-hmm. If you really want to keep a player in your market, you really incentivize them and say, hey, our sake of argument, Milwaukee, they bought it for $400 and somewhat odd million. I think their valuation now is like $1.4 billion. I don't know specifically that change how much Giannis is attributed to it, but I'm pretty sure there's a significant amount. So what would that amount be to say, Giannis, you stay in Milwaukee, we've grown the value of this franchise, we want you to participate? That would never happen, and I understand that. But if you talk about having someone have real equity in that growth, that's the best way to do it.
Why does every good idea in sports start with a preface, it'll never happen? Isn't that interesting?
It's very interesting. But you know what? It's good because we're not going to waste time on it, knowing that it's not going to happen.
We already wasted 2 good minutes, but it was really good.
It was good minutes.
Couple of thoughts about the NBA. Obviously, Asia, South America, Europe, you have it in your mandate as your next growth areas. You also speak, it says, 37 languages, and you're successful in dealing with international business and creating lasting relationships all over this planet and
I think
others.
It's 45 languages.
That's pretty significant, man. But when you think about it in all seriousness, where is the next fertile ground? We'll talk about China in a second, but just for a second. Next fertile ground for you, from your perspective.
I think the NBA is making a big push in India. I think the NBA is continuing to, where you have a significant amount of people. The problem is it's going to take a lot of time to develop those new markets. When you talk about true growth in India, they've started from the very grassroots level, just like they did 2 decades ago in China. Slowly start introducing the game, slowly begin teaching people how to play. And I think the next growth sectors are Europe to a certain degree, but I really think if you think about India, if you think about continuing to grow the game in Tokyo, the Philippines, really a lot of the Southeast Asian areas is important. But again, Adam Silver probably has a much better answer to that than I do.
Well, but you all have good answers from your own perspective. And then I guess finally from this issue, You got to talk about it. It's been an elephant in the room. But when historians look back on the Daryl Morey tweet and the reaction, what do you think will be the ultimate takeaway from this experience?
I think that's a really good question, and I don't even know what the answer to that is. I think it's when we look back 5-10 years from now, I think the landscape of basketball will have changed. I think, as you said, there'll be new markets. I don't know. This is something I think we've never really been through before. And it shows how global basketball has become. It shows that it is affecting, even public policies to a certain degree. I think Adam Silver will be able to figure out how to navigate these waters. But I'd be lying if I said in 10 years from now, looking back, what this meant. I don't know.
Well, and Alex, one of the things I think we all would agree on is that it is a heck of a case study for academicians, for crisis managers, for social media followers, for sports agents, and everybody else in between. So where are you going to be in 5 years?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I will be hopefully representing wonderful players and continue to do what it is that I do. Or I could be on a beach in Bali with my kids and living a good life. I don't know.
Or anywhere between. Or representing athletes and living a good life.
That's absolutely right.
Alex Saratsas, Senior Director of Global Operations, Octagon Basketball, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Rick Horrow,